Have you ever heard about a study method that works too well to really exist, but it does? No hour-long repetition of cramming notes, just a few very excellent rounds of quizzing yourself. Now, what I'm talking about is active recall. But what even is that? Basically, it's the scientifically proven best way to study by just quizzing yourself. And I actually saw a survey a short while ago asking Harvard students about their favorite way to study, and 99% of them said active recall. No, I didn't, but I'm sure they all would. But I talked a lot about this now, so I might as well just explain how to use it effectively. Now, the first tactic you should use is pre-testing. Just sit down at least 3 days before your exam and find a few worksheets about the topic you want to learn. Doesn't have to be something very hard, just a quick test for yourself. And you will probably get most of it wrong in the first few rounds. However, if you notice that you do get a lot of it right, be sure to gradually increase the difficulty of what you're studying. Pro tip for this one, send all your lesson materials to AI and tell it to create that quiz for you. The best AI for that is Claude, of course, but the skill AI needs for this one is so low, I think even Copilot could deal with it. And what pre-testing actually does is it uses the hypercorrection effect. This is when you think you got an answer right, but you actually got it wrong, making it stick even better. Now, number 2 on my list is stop and recite. And what that actually is very simple, but most people just skip it for little to no reason. Remember this the next time you read your textbook or try to learn something from a YouTube video, because what I want you to do is after every section of it, pause and think about what you just learned. Now that you've thought of it, try to re-quote it in your own words. Remember, the more detailed, the better. If you want to have an extra strong dose of it, then even write it down, type it, or say it out loud. If you're not in a library, you might get creepy looks for that one. If some topics are hard to recite, make a note of it and ask your teacher or professor in class about it. I actually want you to do that exercise right now. Pause this video and try to recall the study method I just taught you. See what you remember. And I know I'm usually not a big fan of multitasking, but while doing that, be sure to subscribe to the channel to never miss videos like this again, and give this one a like if you didn't until now. Okay, these are all great prior to studying at home, but the next one is actually usable in class. And that is super simple, because what I want you to do is just turning everything important your teacher says into a what if question. If he's talking about hemoglobin, then ask yourself something like, what is the role of hemoglobin in the blood? Quick, easy to answer, and 1,000 times more useful than just copying everything the professor says from the board. If that is still too complicated for your brain on a Monday morning in period 8, then just turn everything into a why question. Why is hemoglobin even useful? Why does carbon monoxide from cigarettes affect the oxygen carriage in the blood negatively? In some books, there are even the lesson objectives. So if you have them, ask yourself if you can answer these in just a few of your own words. This method is super successful because it also already creates perfect questions for you to answer later when you're hopefully using pre-testing to fuel your wins. Or immediately after class, which brings us straight to number 4, which actually is immediate review. Now, if you have ever had the chance to do it straight after class, not too long, just sitting down in the library or your next classroom for 5 to 10 minutes and answer the questions you already answered in class, do it, because you will feel immediate results. For this one, it's crucial to not look at your notes while doing that. My tip for this one is try to integrate this after every class, like I already said. Write or type it down, or even just think about the right answer while reading the questions if you're extra short on time. Now, it occurs that you forget to take notes. If that happens, just go through this lesson slides and do them the same method or send them to AI and test active recall differently. Okay, little checklist. We've done before class or test and during class. What's still missing now is after class. And I'm not talking about like 5 minutes after. I'm talking about hours or even days after you finish the lesson. Now it's not really about testing what you learned anymore. It's about making sure you really understood the topic deeply enough to be tested on it. Now, how do we do that? Well, there's multiple ways for that, but we'll start off by talking about mind maps. And yes, they can be used in pretty much any time while learning, but they are the most effective after learning a bit already, because what you're doing is you are basically connecting all the information you have on a blank piece of paper. Very important is that this method is only useful if you make new connections. You have to realize, wow, there is something new I never thought about earlier or before. That's when you're on the right track. Okay, next up, we have probably the easiest, honest, and honestly most fun way of active recall, because what you're going to do is you are going to grab a friend and explain everything to him. He can do the opposite with you if he wants, but what is crucial about this is you have to do it as detailed as even possible. This is specifically useful because you are not only learning from your own mistakes, but also from the ones your peer makes. This makes you go from 10x efficiency to 100x efficiency, and you'll also just have a great time doing so. Now, I know that there's people that don't have any friends, and if you're one of them, just write it down or teach it to a teddy bear. This might actually be more useful than teaching it to a friend, because you can pretend to be teaching it to a 5-year-old with the easiest words to possibly do it, or to someone that knows nothing about what you're saying, so you have to explain it from the very first step of the equation or formula. And what comes now is one of my favorite ways to study, which I use since primary, and you called it flashcards. Now, you can do it in two different ways, which first is just writing down the information by yourself. This can be very helpful, especially in the beginning, because I usually remember half of it by writing it down already. However, after a little bit of time, flashcards can become very monotone, and this is where AI jumps in. It creates tons of flashcards in few seconds, making sure you really understand the whole of it. For creating flashcards, I would specifically recommend two AIs, which are first Gemini Notebook LM, and secondly, who would have thought about it? Claude. Actually, thinking about it, I would recommend you to do both of the ways of flashcards in the way I just showed you. Okay, the next method on the list for active recall is emulation. Now, this is specifically useful in abstract subjects like math or chemistry, and what it is remembering stuff in specific sequence. So what you do is like the planets in space, for example. You have this, my very good mom made me very good noodles or something. I'm sure you know it if you passed through middle school. And that's just how you remember formulas in math, how to calculate x, or just anything that might be as hard as it sounds. But that's the perfect way. And that was also already the last technique to actively use active recall. So if you enjoyed it and will include these habits while studying to get 120% out of your study time, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to follow the journey. See you soon. You're simply Sammy.